The 9.6 PTB was a ghost town. Very few people actually played this PTB, which is likely due to the lack of interesting changes. And that's not to say that this PTB is a bad update. It contains plenty of positive changes. However, the majority of these positive changes are so small that there's virtually nothing to test during the PTB itself. Most of these changes would have been better off just being sent to the live servers ASAP, but instead they will be trapped in a 3-week limbo period before this patch finally goes live. Ultimately, this PTB once again proves the point that PTBs lost their meaning forever ago. One of the few new features in this PTB is the diminishing return system. I have very mixed thoughts on this system, so much so that I've not yet organized my thoughts about it. I'm not even sure if it's worth addressing at this point in time, as the impact of the system may not be truly felt until this patch goes live. There's a list of pros and cons to the system itself, but that's a potential topic for another day. What I want to cover in this video is somewhat related to the diminishing return system, and that is the progress bar update. In the 9.6 PTB, the progress bar has now been updated so that the color of the progress bar better reflects the speed of any interactions, with the bar becoming yellow if the interaction is faster than normal, and the bar becoming red if it's slower than normal. For the last several years of this game's existence, the color of the progress bar was dependent on the individual player. For example, during cooperative generator repairs, while the repair progress bar would be moving faster than repairing the generator by oneself, the bar would become red to help indicate to the player that the repair was not as efficient. The entire point of making the progress bar red for interactions like this is to help signal to players that doubling, tripling, or quadrupling gen repairs was not as efficient as splitting up and repairing them solo. In the April 2026 dev stream though, it was noted that the progress bar turning red for these kinds of interactions was found to be too confusing for newer players. I can understand how this could be confusing. However, I believe there's plenty of other underlying mechanics that serve as a larger point of confusion than a red progress bar would. Nonetheless, because of the reasons cited by the devs, the progress bar has now been updated so that the color of the progress bar is strictly highlighting yellow if an interaction is moving faster than normal, and highlighting it red if an interaction is moving slower than normal. On one hand, I totally understand why this change was made. Just because the interaction itself is inefficient doesn't mean the interaction is moving slower than normal. But on the other hand, small changes like this only add to the ever-growing bridge between new players and veteran players. Understanding fundamentals like gen repair efficiency is crucial for newer players, as learning the hows and whys of macro gameplay is an essential component to adapting to this game. And by changing the cooperative gen repair progress bar color from red to yellow, this feels like it's merely remixing the cited problem into a different one, and it's only adding another hidden mechanic to the way Survivor is played. The tutorial in this game is pretty much a bare bones example of a typical match, with many tips, tricks, and information left for either blind discovery during the course of a match, or by searching online for specific guides. Flipping the progress bar color functionality around like this sounds better on paper than in reality, but this change, in all honesty, isn't that bad when compared to the other major change progress bars received. That's right, the progress bar changes don't stop at just the color modifications. There's a brand new feature that's been added to the progress bar, and this addition is one of the most bizarre UI modifications I've ever seen in this game's history. The new feature that's been added is essentially a new animation to help reinforce speed differences. Or in other words, a bunch of glowing moving arrows have now been added to the progress bar. No longer will a player be left wondering whether their progress bar is moving forward or backward. They will now have bright, frantic arrows that indicate to a player that they are either making or losing progress. When I first witnessed this new animation, I was in disbelief. In my humble opinion, I find this new progress bar animation to be downright horrible and extremely distracting in the worst ways possible. In short, this animation feels like it's attacking my eyeballs whenever I take a glance at how much progress I have on a repair or a heal. I no longer dare to take a look at whatever progress I am making or losing in whatever interaction is going on. The risk is simply not worth it. I'd rather save my eyes from the stress of looking at the progress bar and just do my best to estimate the amount of progress that's been completed. This wild animation makes it way more difficult than it should be to quickly recognize how much progress is left in the progress bar. I feel like I'm being punished for trying to catch a quick glimpse at how much progress I have, which is the complete opposite of an intuitive design choice for any kind of UI, let alone a progress bar. But that's not all. The best part is that the amount of arrows and the speed at which they travel only increases the faster an interaction becomes, which makes it all the more worse to experience. Using a perk like Deja Vu in combination with a toolbox makes the repair progress animation pretty damn fast, and if another survivor comes over to start repairing, the animation starts moving at lightning speed. I genuinely had to avoid looking at the progress bar when this started happening, as it was hurting my eyes. And this animation not only applies to survivor interactions, but also killer interactions as well. For example, I played Billy in the PTB while using his engravings add-on, and the arrow animation is present when revving his chainsaw. Again, the problem this creates is that it makes it much more arduous to quickly judge the amount of progress bar that's been filled. Knowing how to feather Billy's chainsaw is a key aspect of playing Billy, and this new progress bar animation makes it a little bit more difficult to judge the progress that's left when revving or charging a power like his. The progress bar animation absorbs all of the attention in the worst ways possible, and it makes it borderline strenuous to glance at the progress bar while also trying to focus on the ongoing action that you're doing and the surroundings of the game. And when I first read about this arrow animation in the patch notes, I thought this addition would only be for the yellow or red progress bars. But no, these arrows are even placed on the normal progress bar. While the amount of arrows and the speed at which they travel on the standard progress bar is certainly less distracting, the addition of this arrow animation itself feels like a new low for DBD's UI. I understand the desire from the devs to make it easier to understand when an interaction is moving faster, especially when stackable speed increases or decreases are actively occurring. However, having an arrow animation for the standard looking progress bar is completely pointless. Why do I need to have moving arrows on a progress bar that is already moving towards the endpoint of the progress bar? What do the added arrows actually accomplish? What message is not being clearly communicated to the players with the current progress bar that the change felt necessary? Is it not clear to newer players when the progress bar is moving? And if that's the case, that is incredibly worrisome for a variety of reasons both inside and outside of DBD's realms. And to be clear, Dead by Daylight's progress bar has remained virtually unchanged since this game first launched back in 2016. The only real difference between the 2016 version of the progress bar and the progress bar we have today before this PTB is the shape of the actual progress bar itself. For reference, the old progress bar would fill up an elongated trapezoid shape, while the current progress bar fills up an elongated rectangle. Outside of the shape change, the progress bar has remained pretty much the same, only receiving some very small tweaks or changes. The addition of this arrow animation feels like a classic case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I strongly believe that the devs have completely forgotten and or lost the purpose of the progress bar. The point of the progress bar is simple: allow players to view how much progress has been made and how much progress is left to complete an interaction. The addition of moving arrows on a progress bar that has no actual speed increase or decrease happening is teetering on the edge of assuming the player is too uneducated to understand when a progress bar is moving. Furthermore, having a plethora of constantly moving arrows for interactions that are working faster or slower diverts the attention from the most important information the progress bar provides. The constant motion of the arrows turns what was once a simple spot check on the progress bar into a grueling battle of endurance for my eyeballs, making the progress bar more difficult to dissect in the moment of a somewhat fast-paced game is not a step forward in the UI. I'd love to know if anyone else finds this new animation as distracting and or painful as I have, so feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Altogether, I'm not sure what a good compromise would be for this new arrow animation, but I sincerely hope this is either reworked or fully removed before this patch goes live. That's all I have for now. Thanks for watching.